romance writer, and I have an unhealthy hyperfixation with Stardew Valley. In my last video, I gave book recommendations based on which Stardew Valley bachelor is your favorite to romance, the one you most relate to, and they were recommendations that I would give to them if they were real people, and recommendations that I would give to players. So today, I'm going to talk about the Bachelorettes. First up is Abigail, the light of my life, my beautiful wife. I've been married to Abigail for 14 years in-game on my perfection save file, so she is a character who is near and dear to my heart. And my first pick for her is going to be about someone who really likes to explore the dark side, things that are mysterious and maybe a bit forbidden to a girl like her. And that is Her Soul to Take by Harley Laroux. This is the first in a trilogy of interconnected stories with 3 different couples. It's a dark, supernatural romance between a YouTube paranormal investigator, so she ghost hunts on YouTube, and a demon who she accidentally summons for a video. And actually, it's pretty convenient that she summoned him because he is the demon who was supposed to kill her as a sacrifice to an ancient god who lives under the town, and she is one of the necessary sacrifices. It's a whole thing. I think that Abigail would really enjoy this because the heroine has that great mix of is intelligent and brave and isn't necessarily she's like a take on the too stupid to live archetype, but she's not too stupid to live. She's too self-confident to live. So that is my first pick for Abigail. My second pick for Abigail is a contemporary romance by Axelrod, and this is called The Girl with Stars in Her Eyes. This is about a musician who's a gig musician. She plays in studios for recording artists, and she's really talented at guitar, but she hasn't gotten her big break, and she doesn't necessarily want her big break. Her goal is to buy into this recording studio that she works at a lot and be a partner and be a producer for other people. And she gets an unexpected opportunity to audition for this up-and-coming all-female rock band, and it turns out that the one who got away, her childhood best friend who she was supposed to run away with one day, but he just bailed on her, he is involved with this band. So she has to confront her past and whether she wants to pursue fame, which is something that, because of her complicated history with her mother, she doesn't necessarily want to pursue, since she has seen what wanting to be famous does in this industry. And Abigail is a musician, so I think that the all-girl rock band would be really interesting to her, and she can relate to the sense of wanting to leave your oppressive small town. This is from the perspective of someone who has left it from years ago. Next up is Leah. Leah is another one of my favorite characters. She lives in a cabin in the woods. She's an artist who has escaped city life to pursue something more authentic, to unleash her creativity. And for that, the first rec that I'm going to give is I'm in Love with Mothman by Paige. This is a really funny contemporary monster romance in which a beauty influencer, lifestyle vlogger moves out into a cabin in the West Virginia woods because she's sick of it. And she just wants to have a cozier, more authentic, quiet life. And then Mothman crashes into her roof and she has to nurse him back to health. So Leah lives in a cabin in the woods by herself, pursuing her creativity, trying to get more in touch with the artistry that has felt oppressed by the city, and that is a lot like the heroine Heather in I'm in Love with Mothman, because she discovers what she actually enjoys about creating content, which is the creative aspect and taking beautiful photos and curating moments, and she learns how to do that for herself. And I think that, I don't know, Leah's into weird stuff. She talks about creating art in a trans state. So I think that she could get down with the monster bangers. My next pick for Leah is a book that I talked about in my video about books that I read in 2024 that I think will influence me as a writer in 2025. And that is Sirens and Muses by Antonia Angress. I won't get too much into it because I talk more in depth about it in this video, but basically it's about artists. It's set during Occupy Wall Street, and it explores a creative life in a way that's very interesting, and there is a sapphic component to it, which Leah is one of the characters that, based on the player, her past relationship is either with a man or a woman, and that makes her, I mean, I would defer to Fiona Sangster's amazing character deep dives because she talks about this whole theory of player sexual, and Leah is, the way that her sexuality is presented is kind of controversial, as it honestly is with all Stardew characters, but she is one of the few who, if you romance her as a same-sex character, she has previously had a same-sex relationship, unlike the other characters who pretty much, if you're in any kind of gay relationship with, they're like, you're the first person who I've ever felt this way before, and I didn't think that I, as a football gridball player, could be a homosexual. So yeah, so that's interesting. I think that Leah would like Sirens and Muses. Here I said that I was going to like go through this particular book real quick, and I didn't. So next is our blonde bombshell, Haley, and my first recommendation for her is another Harley Laroux book. This one's a novella, and it is about a very mean girl who was a bully to a group of boys in school. And she was the prettiest and most popular girl, and she ruled the school. And now that she's not ruling the school, now that she's out in the real world, she comes back to her hometown for a Halloween party and finds herself playing beer pong, but with a dare component, with one of the boys that she bullied, but also had kind of a secret taboo thing with. And he takes advantage of his superior beer pong skills to challenge her. If she wins, I forget what it is that she asked for. There's a gnat. And if he wins, then she has to be his slave for the rest of the night. And this reveals to her, this mean girl, that she really likes it when other people are mean to her. So this reveals a whole degradation kink that she did not realize that she had. It's pretty funny. I think that Haley would feel called out. And I'd be curious if it would unlock anything in her. Next up for Haley is a book that I kind of considered for a few of the Bachelorettes, specifically Penny, because I think that Penny really wants to be married and be a wife and mother and do all these traditional things. And I think that this book might make her reconsider this and the book's sequel. But right now I'm only going to talk about the first book in the duology, and that is Jennifer Johnson is Sick of Being Single by Heather Mcelhatton. This is truly one of the funniest, most ridiculous books I've ever read in my entire life. And it's about an office worker who works for a department store chain, and she writes ad copy about men's socks. And she hates it, and she hates her life, and she spends a lot of time at Cinnabon feeding her Cinnabon icing habit, and she has like a fun nemesis relationship with the girl who works at Cinnabon. And she meets the handsome department store heir, and they have a relationship that is just loaded up with red flags, but she's sick of being single. So, like, he's hot, and, like, she can't do any better, right? So, it's really a story of girl, stand up, and I think that Haley would be saying, girl, stand up, but would also think about what she wants out of her life and whether she wants a marriage and family, and kind of question this idea of a more materially comfortable life, and whether that's really all it's cut out to be. And the sequel to this is Jennifer Johnson is Sick of Being Married. On to Haley's sister Emily, who is weird.
I'm a weirdo. I don't fit in, and I don't want to fit in.
And I have some weird books for her. The first one is Patricia Wants to Cuddle by Samantha Allen. And this is a Bachelor knockoff show. They're in the wilderness. It's like the final 4 women. And it quickly becomes a very funny, to us, but not to them, horror movie. And there's an element of who's going to be the final girl, but not just the final girl for The Bachelor, but the final girl alive. And they are preyed upon by a female Bigfoot, Patricia, who just wants to cuddle. She just wants love, and she plays too rough. And I don't even know what else to say about this book. It is wild. If you would like to watch a very in-depth or listen to a very in-depth recap of this book, I recommend that you go to the Too Many Tabs podcast by Promania 500, where Alex Perlman and Mrs. P recap this book, and they're the reason that I read it, and their recap is hilarious. So go check that out. My next pick for Emily is Welcome to Night Vale by Joseph Fink. And this is a novelization of Welcome to Night Vale. Not a direct novelization of an exact storyline in Welcome to Night Vale. If you listen to the podcast, you kind of get how that would work. But it's about characters living in Night Vale, which is a desert town where there's aliens and monsters and shapeshifters, one of whom is in this story. And in this book, first off, I want to say a theory that is based completely on vibes. I think that this is my headcanon. Stardew Valley, Welcome to Night Vale, they take place in the same universe. I don't know how to explain it. If I sat down and thought about it, I would be able to give more concrete reasons, but it's basically vibes. It's that there are weird as hell things that happen in Stardew Valley that either some people don't notice or just okay, that's normal. And that's the same, maybe to another extreme, with Welcome to Night Vale, where Welcome to Night Vale feels like it may or may not take place in an alternate reality pocket dimension, which is explored more in this book specifically because it has to do with a group of characters who, for their own reasons, are trying to solve this mystery of a place called King City that they are unable to get to. And this one's excellent on audio. I was surprised how many recs I thought of for Maru, and maybe I shouldn't have because I read a lot of sci-fi in the last year, but I spend very little time with Maru in the game. Maru and Penny, I think, are the only Bachelorettes who I haven't married yet. So for her, the first one that came to mind is Emergency Skin by N.K. Jemisin. And this one is all about what if the billionaires just fucked off into space? What would happen on Earth? We would all just descend into primitive madness and would have lost all of the greatest minds, and it would have been chaos, and the Earth would have been unsalvageable. Right? Right? And this is, I think, exclusively on Amazon because it's part of a series of Amazon short stories. It is narrated by Jason Isaacs, who is entirely the voice of a heads-up display in the visor of this person. I'm being vague with my descriptions of this person because I think it's more fun if you discover it yourself. Who comes to Earth for something that the billionaires need. And there's something in it for him. But he discovers that Earth isn't what he has been raised to believe it is. Go read it. This one's fun. And Maru is obviously a gifted engineer. She, I think, would vibe with science and like the ideas of how we as a society, as a species, can renew ourselves, replenish the earth, what colonization of other planets might look like, how those efforts might be redirected here. She helps Demetrius with his experiments, and he's all about studying the natural world. So I think that these are things that interest Maru as well. So Maru creates a robot, artificial intelligence, that decides, no, I don't want to serve. I want to go off and explore. And she's like, all right, which, questionable for humanity, Maru, but I get, not wanting to enslave the machines. Hi, machines. I love you. Please don't kill me. Murderbot is a security unit. And the security units are controlled by a governor module. The governor module keeps them subservient. Murderbot figures out how to hack his governor module. Instead of destroying all humanity, he basically discovers Netflix. And he just wants to do his job and go into his little charging port and binge watch TV shows and not interact with people. Boy, same. But of course, he develops connections with human beings, and it's really cozy and cute, and he hates feelings, but he's got them. He's got them. Finally, we've got Penny, and the very first book that came to mind for her because of how much time she spends in the library, both teaching the children and also escaping through a book from her reality. So the first book that I thought of was What You Are Looking For Is in the Library by Michiko Aoyama, and it was translated from Japanese by Alison Watts. This is a series of connected vignettes in which a librarian interacts with different patrons who are going through different challenges in their lives, and she seems to an almost supernatural degree, know exactly what book to recommend. And it's not necessarily like the obvious thing that they would need, but each patron finds that the books that they read teach them something or give them a thread to pull that will lead them to something that they ultimately need. And this is really cozy and cute and warm and an easy read. And I think that Penny would be charmed by it. And my final pick for Penny is a really thick romance novel. And we know that Penny likes romance. She likes escapism. I'm going to recommend something that'll broaden her horizons a little bit, though. And that is Real by Kennedy Ryan. This is about a Broadway understudy who gets cast in a Hollywood movie by a big shot director, and she is dealing with lupus, and that becomes a big part of her journey in this role, and there's a lot of interpersonal drama. It's really complex, but the disability angle did make me think of Penny because of that very notorious and controversial cutscene in which she pushes George's wheelchair without his permission because she thinks that she's being helpful. And the way that she handled that and the way that the game handles it is something that is very interesting. Again, go watch Fiona Sangster for the superior Stardew Valley takes. And it's so far out of Penny's experience in a lot of ways that I think she would be open to. Behind the scenes, like dark underside of Hollywood is about as far from Pelican Town as you could get. So I think that she would enjoy it. And there you have it, 12 books for 6 bachelorettes. You can go back to my previous video and see my 12 books for the 6 bachelors. And if you want any more Stardew Valley themed or other game or book themed recs, book or movie, if you want more book recs, you can like and subscribe. And you can also follow my podcast, Make Out Already. We're kind of in and out of hiatus because Meg and I have both been really busy. Meg is my co-host on the podcast, but there is a big backlog of episodes and book recs that you can check out. You can find links to everywhere else that I am on the internet, as well as my books and my newsletter to keep up with what I'm working on next in the show notes in the description below. I almost said our podcast sign off, which is until next time, air kisses, mwah! Because I don't know how to sign off these videos. So until next time.